Hello team, Danette and Ken Kroll here. This is Big Bucks, Oops, How to Accidentally Make Big Bucks with Your Scentsy Business. And we came up with this title because of our about a year-long observation of other Scentsy consultants who honestly and truly have been surprised to no effort of their own, for the most part, making money. Well, they don't realize how they have accidentally made some serious bucks. So what our endeavor was to dissect some of their successes from their feedback and from our Directors Council's input and with Scentsy's overall numbers so we can duplicate it. And that's what this presentation, part 1 and part 2, are about. So you might want to get some cocoa and a utensil and paper just to jot some of your thoughts down, because this is a chance to be proactive in making big bucks. Oh, this is me again. I'm so fun. The prerequisite, you guys, for this is to make sure you've reviewed the Director's Drive and the compensation plan. Those have already been presented to you, and in those two presentations, the guiding principles that you want to be familiar with are breadth and depth of building your Scentsy business, and the downline multiplier effect on recruiting and sponsoring. So if you feel like you're comfortable in both of these, or in the Director's Drive and Compensation Plan presentations, then carry on, because prepare yourself for this exciting adventure.
Okay, so thank you, Danette. What I wanted to do here was walk through at least one real-world example so you could get a sense of what people are achieving and how they're achieving it. This particular scenario is a director from Utah, and she started out, pretty much from ground zero, like everybody did, of course, and she applied a lot of the principles from the Director's Drive presentation that Danette talked about to get her team to where she had about 120 total people on her team, but of those 120, she said about 50 of them were really active. And this was back before Scentsy was dropping inactives like they do today. So you figure she had about really 50 people who are very active in building their Scentsy businesses or in selling Scentsy product. Okay, so that's the starting point that I want to go from, which was the assessment that she offered to all the other directors as to how her business grew. Now, 14 months later, what she had was a little over 1,000 people on her team. And I know you're going, wow, how is that possible? Well, if you're familiar with the downline multiplier effect, then you have some sense of how your team can compound and grow over time. And of those 1,000 people, she had 3 star directors and 15 other directors. So she of course was a superstar director. She had 3 star directors and 15 directors, and that's what comprised her team. So from here, 14 months prior, she grew from about 50 active people on her team to 1,000 people on her team, of which 3 had promoted up to star director and 15 had become director. Now, how did that happen? Well, her personal goals that she set for herself at this point, at the start point, was that she wanted to get 3 new recruits per month. Okay? And in order to do that, she was going to focus on selling $2,000 a month herself. And the reason she wanted to focus on that was she knew that her sales were key to identifying potential people to join her team. So by focusing on 2,000 in PRSV, and if you've been through the compensation presentation, then you know what PRSV is, she was able to put herself in a position where she was able to achieve these 3 new recruits. Okay, so now let's talk some financial numbers.
Well, and she made a point to say she didn't always hit those goals.
Good,
that
true.
was always just her own personal goal to try to get 3 recruits and $2,000 in personal retail sales. Some months she did, some months she didn't, but it was at least her base goal.
Okay, so this particular month was February. It wasn't one of the primary sales months, so this was a February month, and she got a check from Scentsy. Her check was $11,000. Okay, in a non-prime sales month.
In 1 month.
So pretty impressive. But if you go back here and you go, okay, well, how did that 11,000 come about? Well, if you figure that she got 30%, let's say in that month she did do her $2,000, so she would have got 30% right based on the compensation plan. She would have got 30% on her own personal sales. So 2,000 times 30%. So $600 of that 11,000 here came from her own personal retail sales volume. The other 10,400 thereabouts came from this. So you can see not only how important it is to focus on team development and team growth so that this is happening, but you can also get a real-world picture of how quickly this can compound in 14 months, going from about 50 active to over 1,000 active, and having all these promotions on your team, and how that drives to the kind of money that you can make in this business. So that's a real-world scenario, and we wanted to share with you kind of how the numbers play amongst themselves.
And for you to see there really is a purposeful potential. So now we'll go on to part 2.
Okay, and in part 2 we're going to present a worksheet or a calculator that allows you to track your progress. Well, first define your goals, then track your progress, and then be able to project what your Scentsy financial result could be based on the numbers you're achieving.